If you have been trying to grow your social media and have gotten little to no growth, and as a result, your online business that you're trying to start or grow has seen zero results, then you want to stick around because I have some great advice for you. So today we're going to talk about how using content creation can really help you to market your business, grow an audience of people that you can actually sell to. Now, a lot of people kind of pull back from really growing on social media because they've tried it and it didn't work. A lot of people, when they're first starting out in their business or even different points of their business, they don't have a lot of money to invest in, other marketing strategies that cost money. So what we want to do is anytime that we're spending on social media, we want that time to count. If you are posting on social media and your content is not converting, social media is not broken. Okay, so that only leaves one other outcome, which is that your content is broken. What it is that you're posting is not actually working. In order for that content to really work well for you, even if the content is good, is that you make dozens of pieces of content every single week in order to really start to see that exponential growth and to get your brand out there. First of all, let's talk about this dozens, okay? This dozens of pieces of content, because that immediately can sound overwhelming. There's only 7 days a week, right? So obviously, if you're making dozens of pieces of content, that means more than one piece of content a day, at least. How do you make that work? So here is one way that you can do that. Any piece of content that you create, you need to think of, how can I make this content work for me in at least 3 different ways, right? So for example, let's say this YouTube video, it's here on YouTube. What other ways can I create content? If I just take it and post it on YouTube, but then I also make reference to it on my Instagram page, and then I also email it out to my email list, and then I also take the thumbnail and post it on Pinterest, right? I have now taken this one piece of content and I have made it into 4, okay? Because I have different audiences on each of those platforms. There are several people on my Instagram who may not be on my email list. There are several people on my YouTube channel who subscribe or just happen to watch my videos who don't follow me on Instagram or are also not on my email list. And definitely Pinterest is its whole other audience all on its own, right? So when I take that one piece of content, that effort that I put into it, I have now dispersed it to 4 different channels. And that can feel like, okay, out of the dozen, right? If we're really just going with the 12, I have done 4, right? With just that one thing, that one piece of content that I've done. So what's the other piece of that? Make sure you do your homework. So if I can make this one piece of content and make it count 4 times, I need that content to be really good. Now, is it better to be creating something than nothing? I'm gonna say yes on that, because creating content and putting it out there and getting crickets, that's still data. That's information. That's saying that what you're putting out is not resonating with people. It's not actually, hitting home with anyone, or it's not what they need or what they're looking for. So you definitely get some feedback from that, but then you need to use that feedback. So when I look at my account and I look at the type of content that resonates with people, which piece of content got the most engagement, whether it got as much engagement as what would be considered typically viral, or viral for you, meaning it's the most engagement you've ever gotten on your actual page or channel or your account, then take a look and say, well, what was it about that? I know with a recent creator account that I made, amber.creator on Instagram, I was making reels. Reels is where it's at for Instagram right now if you want to grow and reach more people. And so some of my reels would go a little bit further than others. And so I still kept creating though. I still kept creating. And once I got to probably about 6 or 7 reels, I started to look and say, well, which one of these are getting, thousands of views and which are getting like 50 views? What's the difference? Why? Again, I have the 2 accounts. So I have the Amber McDuffie Co., which is my business account. And when I really looked at the reels that were taking off and that consistently were getting 1,000 views and above, it was because I was being my own silly, corny self. Sometimes it's embarrassing. In fact, I feel like I've held that back for years, for a long time, and people have always just thought I was so poised. And believe it or not, I actually took that as a diss. People meant it as a compliment. You're so poised. And I was like, you basically, are you calling me boring? What are you saying? Right? But when I finally created that business account and I was like, forget it. I'm just going to go all out. I'm going to be me. Okay. And I'm going to do what I think for me is fun and funny. And when I would kind of do little silly facial expressions or whatever that were me, I wasn't trying to be silly to impress anyone. That's different. But when I was just kind of doing what felt like me, I was getting more views. And I thought, oh my God, like I have been corny all my life. And the only person who ever knew it was my son, because as he was growing up, we would just be silly and do whatever we wanted. But I would never show anyone else that side of me. I was like, no, people are going to laugh at me. That's probably some dumb trauma from my childhood. Somebody probably made fun of me as a kid. And I was like, never again. But now I'm pulling that back out and realizing, okay, this is okay. But of course I can't force it. It has to be natural. I have to feel it, and it has to be part of whatever video it is that I'm creating. But I noticed that is where my reels were actually getting more attention, when I was truly just digging into me. Now, every piece of content that I did not have to be silly or have that type of energy. I want you to get really clear on what feels like the most you. What is the you, right, that you would be if you thought no one would ever judge you? Okay, think about who that really is. I want you to take a second and say, that is me, but I would never show anyone that. Who is that person? Okay. And then I want you to even consider creating a piece of content with that person in mind. Not even that person, that you in mind, right? And even if you just keep it as a draft, because at first it's a little hard to put it out there if it's something that you've been hiding, but you would be so surprised on how many people are gonna love it. When you come to these platforms and you are yourself, you are putting your own personal brand out there. That is going to be the most energetically aligned for you, because that means you can show up as you all the time, every day. You don't have to prep yourself so much. Of course, you come with your best energy. Then you really start to connect with the people who like that. And then the other piece of that is think about, what do the people want? Like, the content is not for you. Okay, show up as you, but make the content for the other people, right? Now, in terms of doing your homework and really knowing what it is that people want to hear, right? What it is that they want to see, what type of content would they engage with most, then you can go on these platforms that you're on, whether it's Instagram, YouTube, and start looking for the type of content that people are resonating with the most. Even if it's just one good time, one good day where you're just combing through and saying, what kind of topics are people looking for right now? Specifically for Instagram, you want to do some research on Reels and see what is the trending audio right now. The trending audio has the little check mark down, at the bottom that lets you know this audio is actually hot right now. And so use that audio for your Reels to really get some traction. But the BU part is you have to put your own spin on it. You can't expect to get the same results as somebody else just by repeating exactly what they did. But think, how can I change this up to be still relevant to my audience, to be relevant to people, and it still be me and my idea, okay? So you really want to make sure that you're staying on top of the trend and you're staying on top of what's current, but being you when you show up to actually create the content. That means you do have to be consistently taking a look at social media. One trick that I use is I do set a timer, so I don't get lost in social media and I can get some other things done. 8 to 10 minutes is good, and I will start flipping through Reels, flipping through Instagram. And so I want you to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and not spending too much time on those platforms, and that you're really putting time into protecting your own mental health space. Now, the most important part that I want you to take away from this is to do your homework. You need to be educated on the platform that you're using, the type of content that you're making. Make the content really good. That way, when you do show up, you can actually see results from it. But doing is gonna be your best teacher. It's gonna be your best kind of education route to really know what's actually gonna work, what's really gonna take off and go viral. If you do nothing, then you'll have no idea, right? Because if someone else went viral with it, how do you know that you're gonna go viral with it unless you do it? You you are only one viral piece of content away from selling multiple items of your digital product. Now, if this is something that you don't want to do, you need to be honest with yourself about that. If this is not for you, that's okay. But be real that that's what it is versus saying, social media doesn't work, or, content creation does not grow businesses, or whatever it is whatever excuse it is that you're using to not do it, right? A lot of people have the motivation and the desire to be successful with their own business, but they don't have the discipline to stick to what they know they need to do on a regular basis, right? Until they start to see that traction. And I'm telling you, when you continually put out content, it starts to get that momentum effect. Because even if this piece of content only gets, the attention of 5 to 10 people, but then you put out another 10 pieces of content, now that's 50 people potentially. And if one of those people is the same, now that's 10 touch points that you've made with that one person. And that is the type of person who is most likely to do business with you, because now they really know you. They've made a connection with your brand. They're probably even waiting to hear from you because they keep catching all of your content and they are hooked. So you have to keep building, you have to keep growing, you have to keep showing up and understanding what showing up is. Doing your homework, putting out your best content, get inspired. Feel like you're inspired to put out that piece of content. Get an idea, be listening, as you're going and listening to a podcast or watching a video or reading an email or a blog or whatever, what jumped out to you and say, hey, that really resonated with me. I wonder if I could build on that, or I wonder if I could turn that into a quote, or how can I show up in my stories on Instagram and actually talk about that? So I want you to really get inspired and feel like the content that you're putting out feels good and feels right. And then look at how it performs and make an informed decision on what kind of content that you need to make next. And I want to hear from you down in the comments, and just let me know what it is that you're going to commit to in terms of content. Where do you post most of your content so that we can go and check you out too?